Hello, welcome to Staring Down the Storm, Autism Advocacy in America. I'm your host, Tabitha Ziegler. Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the show. I've got my friend Ellerie Rollins with me, and I will just sort of let her take it away. So Ellerie, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Ellerie Rollins. Tabitha and I met through Location Indie and Camp Indie, and I've had the pleasure of making her acquaintance and getting to know her more closely and intimately over the past couple of months as we've been working together, and it has been incredible to have the conversations that we have together. And so thank you for allowing me to be here, inviting me to be here. So to give a little bit of background on myself, and I am a retired master sergeant from coming out of the United States Air Force. I served 21 years in the reserves with 6 years of active duty under my belt. When I was in, I had the honor of being an aircraft mechanic for 17 years on C-5 aircraft, who are so fondly known as Freds. And that is a funny acronym for effing ridiculous economic disasters, but I'll tell you one thing, they were reliable aircraft and they always fly. So just don't wash the gunk off them, right? No, I had the honor of supporting an airlift mission out of Westover Air Reserve Base. And I served in many roles in that during my time at that base. It's one of the places that helped me grow up and become the woman that I am today. I also served with DCMA, the Defense Contract Management Agency, augmenting the U.S. Army, overseeing the manufacturing of their unmanned aircraft, one of their unmanned aircraft, and that is where I retired out of.
Man, that's exciting. And,
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it couldn't be more timely that I have someone come on to speak about things in the Air Force. But let's talk a little bit about your relation to autism first, because, primarily we talk about things rooted in autism and disability. And we also talk about all the things, like everything in normal life. So can you tell us a little bit more about your relationship with either autism or the disability community?
Yes, absolutely. Autism is a part of my family, actually. So I have multiple family members who have been diagnosed with autism. Some very high functioning, and some that have struggled with it to learn how to maneuver it over the years. So yeah, it's been. I've had a lot of conversations with my cousins. One of my cousins has a child who struggled with it deeply as a young person, and then has come to gain lots of knowledge, maneuver that, foster that relationship, and become part of that community. I've also gotten into coaching, and I have actually had multiple interactions with those who have been diagnosed with autism, and have been learning a bit myself about neurodiversity, what it means to coach neurodiverse people, and how to really engage with that, so that the engagements that I do have are effective for the people that I'm trying to serve. So it's been a really cool learning curve, diving into it myself, learning about it, then having conversations with different people, those both young and old, and just learning how like essentially, and I don't know if they describe it like this anymore, but like essentially all aspects of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we have some family members in my partner's who have been diagnosed as well. So family members, coaching clients, college programs that have all introduced me to neurodiversity. Mm-hmm.
So, would you like to speak a little bit more, like, i.e., maybe name your coaching business and how you would like to move forward into the future supporting the neurodiverse community?
Yeah, absolutely. So Courageous Whisper Coaching is my coaching business, and it is all about trusting your intuition, coming to clarity in living a path that is authentically yours, and doing so without any of the like icky lies that we tell ourselves or any of those things that hold us back. So really diving into an authentic path, doing so with clarity and courage, and so that you just feel really unstoppable in whatever chapter it is that you want to step into next. I have designed it specifically for veteran females
Mm-hmm.
stepping into their next chapter in life, whether that is retiring out of the military, or separating from the military and walking into civilian life, or even just moving from one aspect of their military career to the next. And also, yeah, I guess you could say that about civilian life too.
Mm-hmm.
Moving from one piece of their civilian life into whatever they want it to be next. And I have actually just requested some resources from one of the masterminds that I'm in and from a couple of the professors that I'm in about coaching through neurodiversity and coaching with
Mm-hmm.
neurodiversity. And about, so there's some books that I'm reading that I cannot, I think it's like neurodiverse coaching. I
Mm-hmm.
can't, I don't have it in front of me. So I've gotten some of those resources, and one of the tenets of coaching that I really subscribe to that came out of a coactive coaching model is that in order to provide a foundation where people can succeed, we as coaches have to know that people are whole and capable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just as they are in every aspect of their being. People are whole and they're capable, and they have something to deliver to the world. So that includes everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a message that I really want to make sure that Courageous Whisper is giving. Um, that no matter what makeup we all are,
Mm-hmm.
we have strengths, we have values, and we have gifts that have a place. And that when we support those gifts and foster those gifts and come together as a community, then the collective community elevates, right? Like a rising
Mm-hmm.
tide lifts all boats type of thing. So I think that's the message that I'd like Courageous Whisper to maintain and give out to the world.
Great. So, have you actually come across anybody that is current military or retired that has potentially been late diagnosed autistic or of the neurodiverse community that you have started to work with? Or is your expertise with the neurodiverse community presently more in the civilian population?
Presently more in the civilian population. Now, if I went back, I bet you more often than not, those who I did work with had some sort of neurodiversity. But no, my deep dive into really learning about it and educating myself about it has been more present in the coaching world, um, specifically to clients that I've had, have really started to open up my eyes to this new world. Not new world, but a more educated world.
A more inclusive world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So would you be primarily just working with adults then?
Yes.
Okay. I
Right
think that
now.
it's good information to know because,
Mhm.
if people seek out your services, just kind of laying that framework for what that looks like if somebody was interested in contacting you for services.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I may move into in the future, um, is how to build resiliency into the school system, but that is a plan for later, just because I feel like I need to be more informed. Um, so working with school age kids, would be something I would like to do in the future, but currently, yeah, I'd be serving mainly the adult populations.
Well, I definitely think that keeping that in your back pocket would be a very valuable thing to do because, um, you are right that the neurodiverse community is not a new thing. And even
Mm-mm.
though now we are educating ourselves a little bit more about it, that doesn't mean that it wasn't around. And I think that's why you have a lot more people that are coming out as late diagnosed. So I think it's really wonderful what you're doing. But let's dive in a little bit more into your military background because, as you know, the neurodiverse community it's an interesting bunch, and often you have an overlap, if you will. And I think it's primarily because of the way that people think. But I do find that there are a lot of people that are part of the neurodiverse community that are also part of the LGBTQ plus community. And I
Mm-hmm.
know recently, the Air Force had something come up with the trans community. And being that you were a longstanding member of the Air Force, I was curious what you thought about that.
So, as a female veteran, I understand, and being a mechanic, I do understand what it is like to be the minority,
Hmm.
um, in an arena. Short answer, I don't agree with it. I
Hmm.
think that when humans give their service to our military, they should be given the rights and the benefits that they were promised
Hmm.
when they signed up. And deciding that a person who you have deemed well enough to be in the military at one point, and then saying, hey, no, you're not allowed to be in the military now.
Hmm.
And then after years of successful service, denying them the benefits that they went into the military to serve and receive, is wrong. I
Hmm.
believe that it is wrong. And we were going through some of these points earlier. As when you deny someone who has given so much of their self, their blood, sweat, and tears, and to something that is bigger than them,
Hmm.
to a greater cause, whether somebody went in for benefits, they went in because they didn't have any other choice and this was a path forward, whether they went in for education, financial reasons, or just because the thought of being part of the military was something that they had always wanted to do. Um, and then telling them they can't do that anymore for as they've given 15, 18 years of service, and then saying, sorry, you're not getting anything from us. um, how like morale is immediately going to drop, and you're immediately going to alienate a very large source of an all volunteer force.
Mhm.
And when that morale drops, mission readiness drops,
Mhm.
cohesiveness drops, confusion ensues, because those who may not be affected by it are still affected by it. Because then they go, well, shit, how am I supposed to think? Because
Mhm.
what if you don't, if you're still serving and you don't agree with the policy and your best friend is a transhuman, and then all of a sudden your support system as a non trans person
Mhm.
then gets taken away. And then that trans population then has to look at those surrounding them and go, ooh, who's my enemy and who's not? So there's
Mhm.
the immediate disconnection of a force that is supposed to be, and actually you had brought this up in one of our conversations, past conversations, and it's such a perfect way to put it. That cohesiveness, that force that is supposed to operate as one gets divided.
Mhm.
And so when that morale drops and you start to pin people against each other and you start to take away the support system, then that confusion happens. And when that confusion happens, then that mission readiness, that overall mission readiness immediately drops. So when they say, hey, the reason that we are making this decision is because it affects mission readiness, in reality, making that decision affects mission readiness. So you just shot yourself in the foot.
Totally.
By making that decision. You can't say, oh, the reason we've made this decision is because it's going to affect mission readiness, when making the very decision is going to cause all of that turmoil and take away from the mission and take your force and start pushing its focus elsewhere. Yeah.
Well, as we've discussed, I've got a lot of military members in my family. And I had an uncle that was in the Air Force and then became a captain for American Airlines. So, and, I also worked for the airlines myself for a large period of time. So, you have a lot of these military members that also find a second home in the airline industry because
Mm,
the hours and the life and all of that ends up being very similar to military life. And I ran across quite a few that were ex military from all branches that came in. And that was something that it drifted over. A lot of people may not know this about the airline industry, but we kind of function in a similar way to the military. Like, we have a large pool of people that come into it that either are ex-military, families of military, can work very long hours off of very little sleep, um, and we travel as a unit. And
mm,
when there is a rift in that unit, people can die. Same way
mhm,
like the military. Not necessarily at the same level. We're not talking about like war, battleground level. But since we're going there, we might as well have this conversation.
mhm,
If someone's going to be your wingman and you have
mhm,
to rely on them and you're getting shot at, it doesn't matter who that person is with, what they're wearing, how they smell, what they like. You need to be able to rely on that person to have your back, to drag
mhm,
you out. Like my grandpa, well, two grandpas were in the military. One was in the Marines, the other one was in the Army. And there was this constant battle of like, who's better? And the family reunions, everybody was in a different branch, and like Navy against the Army against the Marines. We didn't have a lot of Air Force, but everybody was like measuring each other up. Who's bigger? Who's stronger? Like, whose branch is better? So, I was definitely around all of that and watched the inner workings of it. But one
mhm,
thing that always shone through for all of their disagreements and for all of their problems, or, who's the best, was this: you stand up for the least of those, and you always go back for your people.
Mm-hmm.
And so something that really shines through with what was happening in the military for me was, I was like, so now you're going to take a small group of people and exclude them. And like you said, everybody's watching, because we know
Mm-hmm.
how this works. So where are the higher levels of the military, who are supposed to be in charge, who are supposed to keep all of the underlings in check, doing what they're supposed to do, creating morale? Where are these people that are supposed to be leading through example, that know these things, that have been in battle, that can speak through experience, whether they were in the Persian Gulf conflict, 9/11, like Afghanistan? We have had so many conflicts because we have been involved since, I've been a legal adult. I am in that age group that I was in college whenever the Twin Towers came down.
Yep.
And there was this surge of people enlisting, especially in my area. And I'm sure they had various reasons, but like you said, a large portion of it was they come in droves to the Midwest area because they know there's a lot of poor people. There are a lot of military families. So now you're getting like multi-generational enlistments. And it's encouraged, actually. It's especially for the boys, it's kind of seen as like a path to manhood. Like, if you can't make the grade to take yourself to college, then you better put yourself in the military so you can have structure, so you can travel the world, have
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. And so, yeah, there are gay people in my family. I'm part of the
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ plus community. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had people serve in my family that I'm aware of, all the way back to the American Revolutionary War and every conflict since. And like a testament to what manhood is in my family is not who wears a dress, but like, put your money where your mouth is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to do the work? Are you going to be someone that is trustworthy, that can be counted on? And I think those are the things, and those are the promises that are made to us, to the civilian population, when we give of ourselves and of our futures, or the futures of our families, to say, we believe in this idea. We are
Mm-hmm.
sacrificing ourselves and our families for the hope that we can maintain a life that is free.
Mm-hmm.
And to come from a family that has sacrificed that much, to believe in that principle of a way of being, or a
Mm-hmm.
thought. Because really, America is a thought, right? So our military is a deeply ingrained sense of self for
Mm-hmm.
some of us. And to exclude these people, A, I don't think it shows anything about manhood, because real men don't do that. And real men don't pick on people that are lesser than. And they
Mm-hmm.
certainly don't leave their brothers behind, brothers or sisters.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you're in a foxhole getting shot at, to be quite plainly, you couldn't give a shit what those people are wearing or who they're sleeping with. But what you remember is who either took a bullet for you, like who was being shot at with you. And these are the type of things that are important to remember. So right now, we have people leading our military branches,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, that are cowards. Because for these people that have sacrificed, multiple generations of their families to service, to death, to, you know, having PTSD, amputations, what have you, serious burns all over their body. These are serious things, and these are serious sacrifices that are almost being diminished by nonsense. That's kind of how I
Mhm.
see it. So, I really appreciate you coming on today, and we've had many like very deep conversations about the military. And I thought, you know, when I heard what was going on in the Air Force, you were the first call that I made, because I was like, I want to know what Ellerie thinks about this, because I know that you're a true patriot and you would not have spent that many years of your life in service to your country if you didn't believe in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do believe in it. I will call myself a patriot. And so thank you for thinking of me. That's an honor. And I have to recognize, like, we as veterans cannot do what we do without the support of our civilian brothers, sisters, family. Like, we cannot. It is the civilians that support us. It is the civilians that take care of everything when we have to go do mission, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
in my military career, I didn't deploy. I was activated. I had a very tumultuous beginning of my career, before I got my head out of my ass and started to succeed. But it was um, it was a time where I needed help, right? And those brothers and sisters in the military and who I was serving were the ones who literally said, "Hey, when are you going to get your head out of your ass? It's time to do these things." And then also the support of my friends and my family and those who believed in our military and service, right? And service and the things that in the support of our veterans, so that it is an alternate path for people to take to get beyond their circumstances, right? Be something other than the path that they're currently on, or go to a different place. Now, there's the challenges and the toxicity that comes in the military too. It's um, there's there's always the challenges, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
have a mission of deterrence and protection, and then war, right? Um, there's always going to be challenges. And so it is civilians that put together these communities so that we do have a place where we can go and we can feel supported and go and feel like we belong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also a place where we can say, thank you for doing this, because yes, I am giving my service, and knowing that you're supporting me and back here, having my back, putting these things in place so that when I come home, I don't have to think about anything, right? We
Yeah.
couldn't do it without the support of our civilians. So that support is so huge, for the force in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to say that, like, recognizing, and going back to patriotism, like recognizing, like, you yourself, like you said, you have those who have served all the way back to the beginnings of our country, right? What an amazing connection to be able to say, my family has had to do with the way that this country has been raised over and over and over again. And I think that is something that is important to recognize, is that we are in a moment of challenge. And in the moment, if we didn't have moments of challenge, we wouldn't have opportunities to succeed. And I think this is a moment of challenge where we have the opportunity to succeed, but it just is going to take these kinds of conversations over and over and over again. And I want to say thank you for giving me a platform, because I didn't quite know how to speak out. And so when you invited me here, I was like, oh, this is the way, right? This is one of the ways where we can come together, we can connect, and start to combat some of that divisive thinking, right? We don't need to be divisive. We can look at this as a challenge that sparks creativity, that leads to progress. So, yeah,
Mhm.
where are those upper echelons? Why is it, nope, we can't do this? Right? No, you can't serve. Why is that the answer? Why isn't the answer? Yes, you can serve, and here's how,
Mm.
right?
Well,
What
like we spoke about
we spoke about
earlier,
earlier.
uh, they are missing one hell of an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of what makes America great and strong
Mm-hmm.
and super resilient is our diversity. You know,
Yes.
we have
Yes.
had flood after flood of different groups of people. And if you're not indigenous, if you're not from an indigenous nation in this country, you're an immigrant. So we
Mm-hmm.
have an entire military service full of immigrants that have come together with one common goal in mind to preserve this idea, essentially, of freedom and what it means to be free.
Mm.
So think about how beautiful that is. Even though war is horrible. War is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes that. But just the beauty of that diversity of multiple groups of people coming together generation after generation from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic levels,
Yes.
skin colors, religion, hair color, gender,
Yeah.
what have you. This is just the latest development. And
Yeah.
because we have a younger generation now that is a little bit more open minded, they believe in this stuff. If other
Mm-hmm.
people say, for example, oh, it's just stuff, like don't pay attention to it. Okay, well, how are you going to entice these young people to serve if it's a volunteer force, like you said? Are you going to start the
Mm-hmm.
draft again? Because people aren't going to like that either. If we widened it up and said, listen, like essentially, I'm not a huge fan of what Israel's doing right now at present,
Mm-hmm.
but I do like Krav Maga. And I do like the fact that they
Yes.
have all of their civilian population have some element of involvement with their military. We have some really smart kids that have a different skill set. And I think part of what makes them strong, and every generation talks about the younger generations like they're crap. Like, they're no good, they're lazy, whatever. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, they're going to say that about this generation too. They said it about ours. And now we are the generation that is now beginning to lead because we have to. Like, we are now sort of in that middle line where when the generations ahead of us are retiring or stepping down or whatever, we are that generation that has to fill those spots. So I feel like part of our like gift to the younger generation is to make space for them to be successful, especially in
Yeah.
the military. Especially in the military. If they can see past all the divisiveness because they see no value in it, we have to follow their lead because these are the people now. This is their country now. We just have to create space for them to be successful. And if we are going to protect our people in the future, we have to move with the times. We can't
Yes.
go backward. We can only go
Mhm.
forward. And I don't think it's just the Air Force. I think it's all of them.
Yeah.
Find a solution
Yeah.
in that beauty, that multi generational diversity,
Yeah.
those immigrant populations that are willing to be part of the
Mm-hmm.
American dream, to give up their bodies, their minds, all of that for this idea of freedom. and
Yeah.
what that freedom means to us as a collective. So anyway, yeah, we're missing the boat, man. Like
Yeah.
hugely. I would like to hear your thoughts though.
Well, and here's a couple of things that just came up as you were saying those things. What we're doing right now, speaking out, what you're doing with your platform, what those who are being affected in the military are doing as they speak up and say, this is wrong, this is not okay, is fighting for that freedom. Yes. Yes, there it is. And if there's nothing, if there's anything American, that is it. It is your right to fight for your freedom to serve, your freedom to live the life that you want to live, the freedom to speak up without
Mm,
consequence. Which we're getting a little away from that one lately, um, but look at history. Those who have been told that they cannot serve always found a way to serve.
mm,
And so therefore our military has become more diverse,
mm-hmm,
has moved, albeit slowly, as America is moving slowly and somewhat backwards. Um, but they've always found a way to serve. And
mm,
so if we have not learned the lesson that at some point hope is going to prevail, freedom is going to prevail, and that these people will be able to serve again,
mm,
it's going to happen. So we're asking or the wrong questions, or we're going backwards, because like if you look at history, those things have always been overcome. Well, it's time to make sure that this one is overcome too. And like you said, I couldn't have put it any better. Like the future generations need to have the space to be successful. They think differently. And with technological advances, and now we have the Space Force, with a whole new battlefield, right? We have a whole new
mm-hmm,
battlefield that's called space.
mm.
There's going to be different ways of thinking. There's going to be new technology that allows us as humans to interact differently. And all of that progress needs the generations coming up. And those generations are more progressive. And those generations need to be fostered. And it has been proven time and time again that diversity equals creativity, which equals better problem solving and solutions.
I'm just giggling over here because I just keep thinking about my grandfather. So you're saying different things that like I feel like he's sitting here like a part of the conversation just kind of laughing in my ear. And I know I've told you before he was my favorite person in the world.
Yes.
But a man, he would just be egging these guys on right now about their masculinity. He'd be like, "You think you're a man? Really?" Like, and so that kind of makes me giggle a little bit because we have all these characters right now that are like all macho and trying to tell America what America is, what America
Mm-hmm.
isn't, how people should think about being an American. I feel like it's individual.
Yeah.
Who are we as a different generation to tell the younger generation what it means to be an American? Because their definition of what it means to be an American might be different. The thing that we have in common is freedom. And so
Mm-hmm.
our jobs as the older generation, which I suppose we're now becoming some of the older generation. I just remember something my grandfather said to me that just keeps ringing in my ear right now. And when I was a flight attendant, I was always like, right, Grandpa, you're on my passes now. Like, where do you want to go? He's like, kid, You go and then come back and tell me about it. I was like, yeah, but wouldn't it be fun? Like, don't you want to go to Paris and like walk around the streets? Or, do you want to go back to Germany? Do you want to go to Italy? Like, do you want to go across the US? Like, what do you want to do? And
Mm-hmm.
he would always tell me the same thing. He's like, you go and you come and tell me about it. And so, in a way, I kind of feel like that's our job right now. Like, we've had the opportunity to live our lives. We need
Yeah.
to use that knowledge that we have to help the younger generation, but they can also help us. They've got a different, like, knowledge base. I mean, look at what they're doing in Ukraine right now against
Mm-hmm.
Russia. If we use that template, because we are coming into a different age of the military. These kids with drone operation and all of that, can you imagine? Like, America's always been this really strong military force, whether I necessarily agree with all the actions of it or not, right? Imagine if you harness that energy and got creative with it and let the younger generation really have a sense and play with that system. You have to have like security markers, right? And this is where, the higher throngs of seniority in the military are important for guidance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But where is the freedom and the diversity and the creativity that melds together to create this new generation, this elevated sense of the military? And
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm going to go into another subject that's probably going to be touchy for you, but
It's okay.
what are your thoughts right now of the military being deployed against American civilians?
So this is something that I have just started becoming aware of because
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a very busy portion of my life, making a transition myself, moving, and but thanks to you and to some of my other friends keeping me in the loop on our military forces being deployed. Now, one of the things that I was a reservist, and so I was strictly federal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the federal mission was, even as a reservist, right? We didn't have the added extra complexity of service as National Guardsmen do,
Mm-hmm.
National Guards people. Where they support both state and federal missions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best examples that I can give, the best example that I can give is like when there's a natural disaster and like a hurricane comes
Mm-hmm.
and National Guardsmen will be deployed to help and protect their civilian counterparts and help with rebuilding the communities.
Mm-hmm.
Depending, their missions, National Guard missions, are different from state to state, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're state missions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they are also federally engaged as well. So, like in a time of war, both reservist and National Guardsmen can be activated.
Right.
Um, my thoughts are our military is meant to protect our civilians, right? To protect our country and protect our way of living. And if it is being used in any way that does not align with that, then you are causing, going back to the same things I said you're causing confusion.
Mm-hmm.
You're causing pitting one community against the other. You're causing and that confusion because am I supposed are you being there to control me? I thought you were here to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm not spun up enough to know what those state to state missions
Mm-hmm.
are, but it is very, it can cause so much divisiveness if not used in an appropriate manner.
Mm-hmm.
If they're being used to control, well, what the heck do you have a state law enforcement for? Right?
Mm-hmm.
The state law enforcement is there to enforce the law
Mm-hmm.
and to protect its community. Then you bring in the National Guard. So then the law enforcement and the National Guard are looking at each other like, that's not my job. Well, that's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, what is our job? So now we don't know, right? So now there's the confusion around,
Yep.
is this your job or is this my job? Or get out of my lane. And then now you've got
Mm-hmm.
friction again, right? Friction causes fire, and that fire
And
is going to erupt.
and then you arm them.
And then you arm them. And as military, we are required to follow the rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
The rules of engagement, which I'm not going to try and quote it, but how do the rules of combat engagement apply to the mission that you've been given within your civilian population?
An
Because the
unarmed
civilian
civilian
population are not
population.
fighting you.
Well, so that's why I was asking, because I am a civilian, though I have people in my family that were in the military.
Yeah.
And this is how I see it. The American public always had sort of a healthy distrust of law enforcement. That's a complicated history anyway.
Yep.
So you have that. And now you have this military force that, you're right, the general public always thought they were there to protect them. You know, they were only sent out when needed in the sense of an emergency, like Hurricane Katrina. Not
Right.
saying that everything went perfectly in any of those situations. But I think this is the first time that the military has ever really been deployed in this capacity without a clear mission that the
Mm-hmm.
civilian population, as well as the military population, truly understands.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm worried about, based upon what I know about how the military is educated, especially with firearms, it makes me really nervous, because
Mm-hmm.
all it's going to take is for one thing to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then the civilian population will forever lose its trust in its military, and that will be a thing we can't come back from in this country.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
Yep. Yeah, it's without the transparency of the reason behind, right, why these troops are in place in a civilian population, then there's always going to be that confusion, right? Like if I walked out my front door and I was like, there's a dude with a gun and a uniform standing there, I'm going to go, hold up, what's going on? Like, why are
Hmm.
you here?
Yeah,
Um,
this isn't Russia. Maybe there were things like this that happens in Russia. I've not lived in Russia, but just as an example, the American population is not accustomed
right.
to walking out in public spaces and having the armed military be present. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that we are accustomed to, and it would
Mm-hmm.
make us nervous as
Yeah.
a large population to see that. And so, irregardless of where you stand on the issue, I think we could agree upon that, this is not something that is normal for
Mm-hmm.
America, irregardless of state or place. This is not
Mm-hmm.
something that we have ever really seen happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, has our environment gotten so chaotic or dangerous that our law enforcement is ineffective,
Mm. Especially
right?
when they're talking about these different cities that, cities have crime. They always have.
Right.
And I am not going to claim to be an expert. I'm just going off of what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
But to have big cities like DC and Chicago have a decrease in crime, like a significant decrease in crime over the past 20, 30 years.
Hmm.
If you were ever going to deploy the military in these cities, one would have thought it would have been in, say, like the late 70s or 80s, whenever crime was really up in cities like Chicago, Detroit. But
Hmm.
now I find it curious being the age that I am, because, I was born in 83. I think you were also
Hmm.
born in the 70s, 80s, right?
Even, yeah.
For our generation, like, I think we all heard probably, like a lot of the inner cities, they weren't safe. It took a lot of rebuilding to kind of get them to where they are today. Even cities like Indianapolis. I remember my parents talking when I was a kid, and they're like, Indianapolis is dangerous. And I think
Hmm.
most of the major cities, when we were kids, they probably would have said that, like, ugh, like south side of Chicago, man, that's sketchy. Like, it's rough there. But now, the south side of Chicago is not the same now as it was in like the early 80s. It is
Hmm.
like light years ahead. So to have the military deployed now to areas like this isn't just bad for our population, but let's talk about the travel industry. Like, there are some cities in this nation, DC is one of them, that they rely heavily on tourism.
Hmm.
So for these foreigners that want to come to the States, to these different cities to see our museums or whatever, they're also not going to become accustomed to this military presence. So this is going to drive tourism into the toilet, which
Mm.
some
I
of
didn't think
these
of it that way.
cities, they can't really, they're not benefiting. I mean, let's just put it that way. The airlines aren't benefiting, the cities aren't benefiting, the restaurants aren't benefiting. So, unless we're looking to make DC into the next Moscow, I don't think we're doing our like tourism industry any favors by deploying this military force. So the millions of dollars of cash that is an influx into our economy, deploying our military is also problematic for that industry.
Yeah.
I mean, you travel a lot.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Have you been on a plane recently?
Yeah. And I'm just about to go get on one. At the end of this month, I'm heading to Miami with my dad to go see a Mets game because I'm
Nice.
a unapologetic Mets fan, New York Mets
Well,
fan.
I was going to say you're originally from New York, right?
Yes, originally from upstate New York. Um, yeah, you know, the freedom of travel and accessibility of locations. I mean, the United States is such a large and diverse country. The people, the environment, the climates, all of that kind of stuff. It's just so beautifully diverse. There's so many different places that you can go, and so many different rich pieces of history, and being able to go and access these places without having to feel slightly off because there's a military presence there, I think is something that's very important. Um, so yeah, I appreciate that perspective of how it could definitely drive tourism into the toilet and then also deter people from coming um, and experiencing our rich history. There's so many cultures that reside in the Americas in general, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
even just the United States of America, but all of North America, Central America, and South America. So, um, so yeah, it would be a just the words escaping me, just a disgrace or a shame is what I was trying to say. If the accessibility to come and experience our beautiful country, um, and one of the things that I paused there for a second, because one of the things that's coming up for me is like, when one of the foundations of, right, building a business, or and in the arena that I'm in right now, is
Mhm.
building a foundation of like trust
Which leads
and
me into my next point, being the multi-potentialite that you are. That's why I mentioned the travel industry, because we both dabble in that too. So,
yeah, yeah, and like, if the accessibility or the deterrence of people coming to America happens, like, then people don't come, and then they don't know us and cannot come to like or love us. Same thing, it happens with Americans and ignorance of another country, right?
mhm.
People become ignorant about us, that tourism does go down. Then part of what makes America great is that there is so much diversity in it. And if people don't get to come and discover that, then yeah, there's the potential for us to become isolated, and our allies to go away. And that would be just a shame. And also, the biggest thing is travel makes the world a smaller place, and it
Mhm.
makes humans more connected and gives you different perspectives. um, it allows you to grow as a person and understand that different people live different ways, and it allows you to determine what's right and wrong for you. Or even if you don't subscribe to right and wrong, what is aligned with your values versus what's not aligned with your
Mhm.
values, and give you the opportunity to see beyond what you already know. Yeah, so, and foster connection and community.
Besides travel, well, let's
Mm-hmm.
put it like this. Americans can open up their refrigerator and travel
Mm-hmm.
to several countries.
Hmm.
We can walk out our door in the most rural of areas and experience diverse cultures through the infusion of different culinary influences.
Hmm.
How many neighborhoods in the US would you imagine has at least one Mexican restaurant and one Chinese restaurant? Even the
Right.
smallest ones.
Yeah.
I
I
would
I have
say
traveled one of the smallest, and they definitely have one.
I would say, if I had to guess, I would say we're in the 90s. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like 95% of every US town has at least one Mexican restaurant and one Chinese restaurant.
Hmm. Thank goodness.
The beer that we drink,
Hmm.
what do you like? Where is it from? Are you strictly an American consumer? And if so, what is the origin? Like, which family came from where to establish which beer company?
Yeah. And even within America, right?
That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
this craft beer is from, right? I know whatever state that I'm in. Okay, I'm going to be unapologetic in all of my decisions.
Yes.
No, that's not true. But
Look, I like beer. I'll be the
I
first
love
one to
beer.
tell you. I will
I
go
love
to any place. The first question out of my mouth is, "What do you have on draft?
Yes, I was going to
Where's
say I
it
love
from?"
the local brewery, because I want to know, like, what their beer is. I am a brewery tour fanatic. Love it. I love to go and taste the local beer in every state that I go to.
Mhm.
And then when I go overseas too, hey, what kind of beer? What kind of beer do you have? So yeah, what a great point.
Well, not just beer. Let's talk whiskey. Most people don't know this, and it might have changed. So, if someone's out there listening and they're like, "You're wrong," call me on it, and we will fix that in the notes.
Absolutely.
I was not aware. Do you know that who? Which group of people is the number one consumer of whiskey in this nation?
Which group of people?
Of all the groups of people, so like female, male, whatever, just guess.
I was going to say female.
Which group of
Is
females?
it? Which group of females? I don't know. I don't know which group of females.
Caucasian
Appalachian.
females.
Caucasian. I was going Tennessee. I'm like Appalachian. Appalachian.
I mean, probably. But
I mean,
I can
well, that's an area,
I
but
can do a deep dive into that. But I was a little surprised at that. I don't know why I was surprised, but I was like, So white American females love whiskey. Okay. I wasn't aware of that, but now I know.
I'm
And
one
I
of
was
them.
like, I also like it. But I was like, I don't know. I was thinking maybe vodka or something. I don't know why I thought whiskey, but it actually makes sense. But, then there's the variation of whiskeys. You have your whiskey
Mhm.
connoisseurs, you have your different levels of whiskey. Like, even in the smallest areas with the tiniest liquor stores, you can still get an option of like maybe 3 whiskeys. Do you want an American whiskey, a Scottish whiskey? Like maybe you only have 2 options, but I would almost bet you, I would say 3. You're probably going to have maybe 4: American, Canadian, Irish, and Scottish.
Mhm.
Even in the smallest liquor stores, you're going to have those type of options. And so when I think about those type of things, it's like, how do you dissect it? We have, ethnically, we have different culinary festivals, right?
Yeah.
You normally have your Hispanic festivals, which normally will have Mexican beer or some, Southern American beer or cocktails mixed with a variety of foods. You come to Oktoberfest time. We're not celebrating Oktoberfest only in Germany because we have a huge German population in the US. You could bet your ass that in most of the major cities, we're going to have Oktoberfest this year. Is that an American festival? No, it's a German festival.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, what happens in March?
Irish.
Patty's Day.
Yeah. Irish festivals. Yep.
I mean, this whole new influx of white Christian nationalism and everything that makes America America, it has me laughing. I mean, it is terrifying. Don't get me wrong, but it
Yes.
has me laughing. And then, wrapping some of these things together, I have to giggle because my family's been here so long. The men in my family know damn well that if it weren't for the women in my family, they would be nowhere. These
Mm.
farms don't function by themselves. Like,
Mhm.
these women weren't just at home, barefoot and pregnant, having babies. They were also out working in the fields, working on equipment, raising the babies, making the food. There weren't these divisions of roles
Mm.
because it didn't work. So, a lot of these pioneering families that were also more likely than not mixed with indigenous culture,
Mhm.
because you had a lot of men coming in and not a lot of women. We're talking early on, 1700s, 1800s. And the
Mhm.
farther west you go, the more that happens. And that is why the farther west you go, when these people start to do their DNA tests,
Yeah.
the indigenous percentage rises, because as settlers were coming in and advancing west,
Mhm.
they were hitting the indigenous populations later. So if you're from New York and you're of mixed indigenous ancestry, I mean, the percentage is probably fewer.
Mhm.
If you're
Yeah,
from
depending.
Oklahoma, that percentage is higher because that is where they took all of the indigenous cultures.
Yep. And to look at migration paths. Um, so and like where a certain population of people resides now and what the migration path to that location looked like. and the mix of people along the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is super interesting. If you, I know one of the ones that I had read about was like the Acadian migration, right?
Oh, yeah.
Canadians being exiled coming down through the eastern portions of
Mm-hmm.
America and then settling into the New Orleans the area, and then um, like the Creole population
Oh, yeah.
emerging from that migration, the mix of cultures, and the diversity that it produced is a really interesting history to
Look,
discover.
people don't flock to New Orleans for the white people. I'm just gonna say, honestly, come on. Like Cajun food,
Oh,
it's not just white people.
hmm. Yeah, it's the diversity of that place. It's the when people say, "Oh, this place is so colorful," they're talking about culture. They're talking about
They're
people.
talking about color, girl.
Yeah, music.
Color. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
just as a whole, not just skin color, but
I know, but come on. Let's just talk about that too. Jesus. Like,
yeah,
Black people have been in this country longer than some white people have been here. Their families were enslaved from like
yeah.
the 1500s. And before that, they were enslaving the indigenous populations, right?
Those
So,
cultures are American culture. The foundation of
absolutely.
American culture. Yes.
Creole culture, like
Mhm.
that is also American culture.
Native American. Right?
Absolutely.
The reason they're called Native Americans by white people.
I mean, things like that get sketchy. Same with, it's hard, right? Because we try and be decent about
Mhm.
having these conversations when we may not be so knowledgeable, right?
Right.
So we try and navigate that the best way that we can.
Mhm.
But ultimately, my point is this. Thank God that we're so mixed. It is horrible, the origin story of how we got mixed, which is also important to tell our youngsters because this
Yes.
stuff, like, I don't know if you've heard about it yet, but this like Prague or Prager University. Oh, girl,
Mm.
you got to look that up. It is insane. They have like a cartoon, Christopher Columbus, that he's like, right, all civilizations and all cultures had slavery. It's normal. And I'm like, big red
Um,
button. Excuse me?
yeah.
Like, and apparently, this is something that the federal government now thinks is a good idea to invest in instead of PBS so that we can indoctrinate our children to think that
Yeah.
slavery is okay.
And even if it is normal, it's not okay. Right? Like you can say it's normal because it's happening a lot and it is a normal thing to see, which look at history, right? It's happening around the world. It has happened around the world. It doesn't mean it's right. And that's the message that we need to like,
Yeah,
hey,
like
we can see
romanticizing
it's normal,
this.
then we need to do something about this, that type of
Honestly,
message.
much like the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our educational system, we need to
Mm.
do better because we're not doing anyone any favors. We're not doing the white kids any favors by saying, hey, look, like, try and discount the black people. It's been long enough. They should just get over it. Same with the indigenous populations. That happened a long time ago. It didn't like directly happen to you. Just get over it. Like, we can do better. We can teach a better origin story that is more authentic if we're speaking about authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
There are other countries around the world that are doing better in addressing these types of things. And I think it's necessary for that cohesion, for that solidarity, that unification of the American people, because we are not just white. And I think herein lies the problem with white Christian nationalism and its influence into everything. And the white men should be on the top, and then there should be different rungs of men. And then, women and children and people of different minorities, like they should just basically not have any rights anymore or have significantly less rights. Man, nobody's going to go for that.
No.
What? Why? Why would anybody? Why is anybody going to be like, sign me up? Oh, by the way, my ancestors potentially were Chinese, and we came to San Francisco in the 1800s, and my family is Chinese, and we were born here, and we're Americans. And then we're going to be told by some other white European immigrants that maybe came in like the early 1900s, but they're
Right.
more American than us. That's just bullshit.
Yes.
Like huge, I call bullshit.
Yes. Yes. America is a beautifully colorful, diverse nation, and it needs to be represented at the top. And that is not happening right now. And it is going to continue. It is going to take continuing to, one, learn about each other. Like, you have to lead with curiosity. Have to lead with curiosity. You have to lead with connection and with a semblance of love, right? Not romantic love, but with compassion and empathy. And now, don't get me wrong. I am all for, like, get out there, work your ass off, find your way, no excuses, right? I'm a bit of a bull.
Hey, that's an American ideal.
With that, but I'm also, it is not, right? Privilege is a thing. So how can that privilege be turned into opportunity that can allow for hard conversations to happen, for curiosity to come first, and to allow that curiosity to find the solutions that it needs to find so that privilege can be spread. And just because somebody else gains power and privilege does not mean that those who already have it lose it. Just means that somebody else has gained it. Rising tide lifts all boats. Just because somebody else has it doesn't mean you lose it. It just means that now everybody's like I said, no, I won't speak in generalities. What that can spark is competition. But if you think about it in a different way, damn, you now have a whole different perspective to tap into in a collaboration. So your privilege and somebody else's privilege collaborates. Holy crap. Like, the possibilities are endless. So just because somebody else gains it doesn't mean you lose it. So we need to get away from the thought of us against them, right? And continue to have open conversations, continue to be curious about each other. Every person has a different lived experience. Just because you come from one group of people doesn't mean that you have the same lived experience as that group of people. You have your own lived experience with your own unique gifts and your own strengths. And when we talk about groups, we miss out on that individuality, which is also an American, right? An American principle and an ideology, but it's not necessarily like what's being practiced. Yeah.
We are at a pivotal point in American history. We do not have the luxury to remain silent. Programs are disappearing every day. We hope that this podcast raises awareness and sparks a sense of advocacy in you. We all can make a difference. The important thing is to start. See you next time.